Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I'm here with Sara Webb. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Angela. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is meditation and empowerment. And so I want to introduce Sara. So Sara Webb is a resilience coach. So she empowers women to get over their ex and get back to themselves so they can live their very best life. She specializes in healing heartbreak from big breakups to divorce by teaching clients to heal from within by reviving their innate power. So I love this because I know that while this podcast is generally very business focused, our personal lives have so much impact on our business life, right?
Absolutely. Heartbreak affects productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are able to really throw themselves into their career or their work or study or something and really just kind of dissociate.
Yeah.
Times it is all consuming. And this, I hope I can say this itty bitty shitty committee here.
Yes.
In our ears really disempowers us, and we end up spiraling and trying to figure out what went wrong. And we're kind of going through the motions, but we're not really, when you like read a whole page and you realize you haven't read any of it because you're off somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens when we're going through a big heartbreak. It's such a grief and it's a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this social rejection, and it hurts everything. And
it hurts our confidence and our ability to trust ourselves, right? And if you can't trust yourself, you start making bad decisions. And you're like, if I just brought in somebody really toxic into my life, right? And now I've got to get over that breakup. It's really hard to then turn around and make a really good business decision because you've now crushed your confidence a little bit. You start questioning your own ability to make good choices. And so I know that has happened for me. One of the worst years of my business was my year of my divorce. And it was not that I forgot how to be a businesswoman. It was that I just had so many distractions and my confidence was crushed. And, it's hard to kind of manage through that. So that's why I'm really excited that we're talking about this and something that I think is very relevant to business today.
Yeah. And it's a pattern. It doesn't have to be romantic relationships.
Yeah.
We have heartbreak in business.
Yeah.
Heartbreak in friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with parents, my parents break my heart almost every single day. Because of the strained relationship we have. And it's about going back and looking at what are the things that I am doing and that are being energetically attracted toward me. Because I'm a meditation coach by training, and we are vibration. We are pure energy. Everything is energy. And so when we get into the actual energetics of what happened during childhood, adolescence, we can start to unwind some of these patterns that we continue to repeat in adulthood in all kinds of relationships that cause heartbreak.
Absolutely. And, I love that you really kind of also focus a lot on the LGBTQ plus communities, because that really is something that I feel like there's so much trauma that could happen in your youth from that, from being part of a marginalized community and then having to, come out to your parents, come out to your friends. Am I sure? Am I not sure? Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? And so tell me what that is like and tell me how, you have overcome some of these, kind of past hurts that, you were talking about relationships. This is a big one.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. I knew that I was gay when I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
but stayed in the closet. And although I dated primarily women, I never came out to my family. My sister knew, my brother knew, but I went firmly back into the closet and married a man and procreated with him.
Yeah.
And then I'm what you call a later in life lesbian, because I didn't come out until I was 38.
Wow.
And it was all part of this huge unwinding. And so that heartbreak that I alluded to with my parents, is many LGBTQIA plus rainbow alphabet of the community suffer from, whether they come out when they're teenagers or later in life. I think especially later in life, because my parents just believe that it's a choice and that I'm
yeah. Well, and I'm sure, the whole, well, you got married, well, you had children. So, I mean, you must just be confused is what they're, and that I hate that. I hate that people feel like, just because you've made certain choices, you obviously just don't know. And it's not that. It's sometimes it's just denial. It's denial of, no, I have to go marry a man because this is what I'm supposed to do, right? Or I have to go have children. I'm a woman. This is what I'm supposed to do, right? And we are judged so harshly by society if we don't follow societal norms. So how did you then, where did you find the courage to say, okay, enough is enough? You had gotten married to a man, and then you decided to divorce then at that point. And what was that like? And how did you explain to your children that, there was this other, truth about you that you needed to be able to be honest and tell them, like, this is who I really am. I still love you. I'm still your mother. I'm still, like this amazing human being. There's just not a future for me and your dad. Because that's one of the hardest things we have to tell children is a divorce.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, my daughter was very young. I have a child, biological child, and I realized when I got pregnant with her nearly 8 years ago, or more than 8 years ago, I guess, that I was using alcohol in order to deny and suppress and people please, because I was afraid of my parents and them they continue to do. So I was sober for the first time when I got pregnant. Wow. And I recognized that I was unable to really be intimate with him. And it didn't have anything to do with him. It had to do with the fact that he was a he. And so I began folding into myself. That's when I was pregnant, I learned transcendental meditation, TM, when I was about 5 months pregnant. I had been meditating before, but that's when I really began a 20 minutes twice a day practice. And that is where I really started looking at some of the traumas that have occurred in my life. And at, when you spend time with yourself, it's like everyone's into self-optimization, but they're not spending time with themselves. And so when we fold within, we're able to really listen and see and start to have that stepping back from our awareness and being able to experience it as the watcher instead of in the movie. And so I left my ex-husband when she was 2, and we got divorced very quickly. It was very civil, didn't do all the arguing. And so my daughter doesn't remember anything except for me being gay. And
that's amazing. That's probably the best case scenario, I would imagine. Because because to be honest with you, I think the older the children are, the more confused they are in a divorce. And I mean, even when you have a heterosexual couple, they deal with it harder as they get older, because they especially if they're going through their own hormones and puberty, they're confused. But my son was 6 when we got divorced, and it was very difficult. Now, most of what he remembers is me and his dad being divorced, because he's 17 now. But I remember that conversation was really, really hard. And it almost made me stay just because of how much heartbreak he went through. And it's very, very, very difficult. But having any conversation about divorce with your children is so challenging.
Yeah. And like you said, it really does affect your productivity at work, your ability to focus, your ability to really feel positive,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're a positive person or not. It really is such a depression of the ego. It's such a depression of our ability to just feel vibrant, because it is this social rejection. And whether you're the one who broke up or you're the one who's broken up with, it is social rejection. And we know that neurologically, biologically, when we're rejected socially, it's just like being kicked out of the city or thrown out of the tribe. Neurologically, biologically, physiologically, we know that that means certain death, because if you are out of the society, like, you're not able to trade or find water, or so it affects us still in this way that we feel like there's no other option.
Right.
And so I oftentimes talk to clients, and I talked to somebody last night who's coming on in another week, and she's like, I haven't been suicidal, but like, I just don't want to be anymore. And speaks to that social rejection. And she's like, I'm going through the motions at work, but I'm not producing. And that's what happens, you know? So when we can be honest about what happened, and instead of, we live in this 3D world, right? We deny, distract, dissociate.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to deny, distract, dissociate. We've got all these things and people and places to go. But when we can actually be honest and sit with ourselves, sit with our breath, there's so many different kinds of ways to meditate, and then leverage really important tools that will get to the crux of it and allow us to see the pattern so that we don't repeat it. That's when we get back to our most vibrant, most successful, best in business selves. And then when that thing shows up in our vibration again, we're like, oh, I recognize this.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think meditation is one of those things where we all handle things differently, but having the ability to really be introspective is so important. And when you're not introspective, then it's you're very quick to blame the outside world, right? So it's the outside world's influence that made, your divorce happen, that this happened, that happened. And we don't start self-reflecting and say, what was my part of this? And I think with my divorce, like, one of the things that I did is I took a month long and I volunteered out of the country, just because I needed that introspection time. I needed that, time away from work, from obligations, from everything so I could just focus on what is important to me. How can I recover from this? What was my part in this, right? Because everybody has a part in a divorce. Even if you were cheated on, even if there was something, we all have to own some part of, whatever went wrong. And so I think just being able to be introspective allows you to grow and be healthy for the next relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that folding within and listening and noticing what you're noticing, because we live most of our life by default, just programming, subconscious is in charge, and we're not really analyzing what we're doing. We have these automatic triggers, not in a bad sense, but these triggers, I go to this place and I have this food and I'm with this person and it makes me think about this. And that's the body's and brain's way of making things really easy for us. But it takes actually looking at it and trying to pay attention to what are the disempowering things that I'm allowing to pass through my head. Because we have like 70,000 to 90,000 thoughts every day, which is crazy. Wow. But 95% of them are the same as the day before.
Wow, really?
And 80% are negative.
Oh, that's terrible.
So yeah, well, and it's just keeping us safe. That's our body, our physiology's way of just like looking for problems. Because it used to be, I'm sure a lot of it about stress, it used to be when we were out foraging, hunting and gathering, we really needed to pay attention to an invading tribesperson or an animal, and our bodies still react that same way, even though it's an email or traffic. And then we're in this heightened state. So when something does happen that's really emotionally difficult or otherwise, we're already so overstimulated that sometimes it causes this complete shutdown and that depression, like when a heartbreak happens or something happens in business that's heartbreaking or with a friend. or a death. I mean, a literal death can throw us off our game because we're already so overstimulated. But when we sit in meditation a couple times a day, or at least once a day, and just allow that parasympathetic nervous system to take over, then we're allowing our body to rest and digest so that we can be more productive and be more successful and really step into our biggest authenticity through that iterative process.
Absolutely. So I love that you brought up the physiological response to stress, because there's a book out there saying your body keeps the score.
Yeah, I know it well.
And it's so true, because when I needed to be divorced and I wasn't divorced yet, I was, there was one of those, you go through that moment of like, it's coming, it's coming, but you're in denial still, like you were just saying, with the denial, the 3Ds, and you're still in denial, and you keep thinking, if I could just hold on a little while longer, if I could just endure, if I could just keep, figure out what I can do differently. And sometimes it has nothing to do with what you could do differently. And your body is like, I was grinding my teeth so much that my dentist was threatening to put a mouth guard in me. And he was like, this is terrible. You can't keep grinding your teeth like this. You're going to get problems with your jaw forever. And so anyway, I was grinding my teeth. I was aches and pains and cracks. And, it was just like, I constantly had a headache. It was one of those things where it's like your body is telling you physiologically, there's something wrong. And if you don't deal with it soon, we're taking you down. And so
I'm probably not able to sleep, right?
No.
Yeah, we get sick. If we don't rest, our bodies will do it for us. They'll choose a time for us. To get that rest in. So yeah, absolutely. It's such a gripping thing. And so that's the reason why I'm a resilience coach, and why I do focus primarily on the LGBTQIA population. I am so fortunate to be able to work with women, queer women who, I work with anyone, but because of my history coming out later in life, and then I did get remarried pretty quickly. There's a joke in the gay community, like, what do gay men bring on a second date? There is no second date. What do lesbians bring? A U-Haul.
Right.
And it's just that physiological, that biological need for like nesting and care. And it's our motherly instinct that when you get two women together or two seed spreaders together, that's what happens. And so, my ex-wife and I did the whole U-Haul thing, blended our families. We had 9 souls underneath one roof between the cats and the dog and the kids and us. And did that, got married 6 months to the day after we met. And it was such a healing experience for me to be able to go through that and then come out of it. And I've healed myself through other really tragic heartbreaks. 15 years ago, my ex-fiance cheated on me while I was sleeping in the next room. I didn't find out about it from him. I found out about it from the guy that he cheated on me with, and who came clean about it. And lots of big heartbreak. And I've learned over all these decades how to do it right. And I feel very equipped. And I know from client success stories to help people get back to their productivity, get back to themselves. I mean, that's what I say, get over your ex and get back to yourself, because it does take looking at ourselves and what we're doing and how we can nourish ourselves. Because there's all this blame, like, he didn't do this, she didn't do that. Well, when you're pointing a finger, you've heard the adage that there's 3 fingers pointing back. Well, and that's just a sign that you can't control what other people do. There's 2 things you can control: your thoughts and your actions, and that's it. And let's look at what we are doing and how we can prevent this.
Right.
Especially with women, that people pleasing is
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because, when it comes to things like, well, how could I be at fault? He cheated or she cheated or whatever it was. And it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes it's we know that there's something wrong and we're allowing it to happen because we just don't want to rock the boat and we just don't want to, say anything, and we're not standing up for ourselves and we're not stepping into our power. And so sometimes it has nothing to do with what we are doing to somebody. It's what we are doing to ourselves that is the blame, right? It's how we are not coming through for ourselves that we have to take ownership of.
Yes, absolutely. And that people pleasing is so ingrained, I think, for women especially. I was raised in the Deep South, so I was taught intrinsically and extrinsically that, I'm not as important as
Right.
I was raised in a heavily Bible Belt area, and the woman is taken from the man's rib.
Yeah.
We are second class from the get-go. And so we have to really step into our power, which is why my program is actually called Revive Your Power.
Oh,
and it's about turning around and saying, okay, how can I pull myself up by the bootstraps? It is about that resilience. And resilience doesn't mean if you're in the middle of running, sprinting, and you fall, resilience doesn't mean you get up and start running again.
Right.
It just means that you get back up.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. There's no, you don't have to. I say this to myself all the time because I've been an overachiever since I was a kid, and I get down on myself if I don't have like as productive of a day today as I was yesterday. Like, well, gosh, I wasted an hour doing something, and whether that was meaningless, or mindless work or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like I hold myself to an impossible standard that I have to constantly be at a 10 every single day. And it's not possible. Resilience is just sometimes like, hey, I wasn't a 3, it was sometimes it's just, I put one foot in front of the other. And I think that's where we get down on ourselves most after a breakup, because, we go from operating at a 10 to operating at a 2, and we just feel worthless. Like now it's not just the breakup, it's not just the hurt, it's not just the distraction and everything else that we're dealing with, it's the loss of productivity in other aspects of life, and we get really down on ourselves because of that too, or at least I do. So I'm just curious as to what your advice is for people when they're going through something like that.
Well, this is an area that I absolutely identify with. I have something that you might recognize as high functioning anxiety. So those of us with high functioning anxiety are able to kind of do that deny, distract, dissociate in order to accomplish things, because that makes us feel relevant. And the long and the short of it is it's a trauma response. It doesn't have to be a big T trauma. It can be a little T trauma, but it's this wanting to feel validation and relevant and accomplished, because we need somehow to feel that. Right. And the anxiety that we experience is just that. We're actually using the anxiety as fuel. Mm-hmm. And then the inner critic, that itty bitty shitty committee here, will tell us things that are really disempowering. And so when we meditate, when I work individually with anyone, whether it's heartbreak or if they just want to learn to meditate, which I still do sometimes, we are able to listen while we're in session and listen while we're in meditation. So this is my advice to all of your audience, is start to watch your thoughts, listen to your thoughts, pay attention to what are the things that I'm habitually telling myself about myself. Because typically it doesn't come from us. It came from an aunt or a parent figure or a coach that we had in school who maybe said something, or even somebody in middle school who said something really terrible to us. And then we started repeating it to ourselves in our head. And so I tell my 7-year-old all the time, don't listen to what the people say about you and repeat it to yourself in your head. You say nice things to yourself in your head. I'm trying to coach her as a child. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll see. And I don't have a test, a control subject. Right? Yeah, we've got to deal with the thoughts because everything starts with a thought.
It's so true.
Yeah. Carol Dweck wrote an amazing book called Mindset, which is like a meta study of all the meta studies of how when you go into a certain situation with a certain idea of the outcome or a certain perception of what it's going to be like, it changes the way that the results happen and the way that we perceive it. And so, I mean, they say life is 20% skill set and 80% mindset.
Yes, that is so true. So true. Well, and it's hard to keep that mindset, in that growth positivity mode, when you're going through stuff. So meditation is really important. I started listening to affirmations. Affirmations have been a game changer for me because I will go through those things in my head. I will go through I'm not good enough. This isn't working. What am I doing wrong? And I will start criticizing myself because I'm my biggest critic, as most of us are. And so, we will criticize ourselves. And those affirmations, like now I listen to affirmations when I'm going to bed, because that time between when you're awake and almost asleep, that almost asleep time is when your brain takes in the most stuff. And it really has changed things for me. It's increased my confidence. It's increased my ability to think through problems without criticizing myself as the sole source of why all the problems exist. Right. And so it really is a game changer, is just mindset.
Yeah, affirmations work. And that's something we work on. Some people don't like that word. Affirmations, declarations, statements, whatever you want to call it. We use them all day long.
Yeah.
Because we don't just have five senses, we have six. We have the ability to talk to ourselves in our head like a crazy person. Right? And sometimes we're not even aware of this constant monologue that doesn't shut off until we go to sleep. And you're spot on there that the brainwave states that we have before and after sleep, and especially before and after meditation, we are very impressionable. And so I utilize affirmations as well. You listen to affirmations, I guess, on YouTube. I'll give you a tip, and all your listeners. There's this fantastic app that is free, and it is called Parrot, like the bird.
Okay.
And you can record anything and it plays it in a loop.
Wow, that's really interesting, in your own voice, which is even better, right?
So you can record 4 affirmations or 40, and it'll just continuously play it. So last night I listened all night long. So every time I woke up, I heard a little clip of it, and then I would go back to sleep. And so I've done a lot of work around manifestation with affirmations in that really targeted way. I found that app last summer and have leveraged as much as possible, especially before and after meditation. You can listen before you go in, and you can also use meditation and breath work. This is something I do with my clients if they're open to it. You can use specific breath work and use the cadence of the breath in order to root it in.
Very interesting.
Usually we're not breathing from the full breadth of our diaphragm. We're not breathing through our entire lungs. We're not activating the diaphragm entirely. So and then when we're stressed, we're only breathing from the top portion. We don't fully oxygenate. So breath work can oxygenate brain, heart, our entire being, and actually promote those affirmations to root in further, because we're super oxygenated. And then we can do breath holds, which are very, very powerful. And when we hold the breath, we are getting right into the subconscious, because it's this fear of, when am I going to be able to release this breath? Or when am I going to breathe again, depending on if you're holding at the top or at the bottom. And so if you're using the affirmations intentionally and relaxing, and you know that you're safe, when you're scaring yourself with the breath hold, you can turn on that app or just repeat it to yourself in your head in order to really root that into your system. And it has been a life changer for me.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I've done the when I'm really like high anxiety, like if I know I have to go do a speaking gig, or there's something that I've got to do walking into an important meeting, I'll do the what is the 4 count breath of like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Yeah, the box breathing, is that what it is? Yeah, so I've done that before, and it really does settle your mind so much.
Yeah, when we're in control of it. When we're not aware of it and we're in a stressed state, they're calling it tech apnea or email apnea, that
Really?
we don't realize that we're actually like holding our breath while we're checking emails or working on something, because we are in this stress state. We don't know what's going to be thrown at us next. And we find ourselves holding our breath. And that is detrimental when you're not doing it on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. So tell me a little bit about, so you've gone through your, you've been divorced twice. I've been divorced twice also. So how do you then get through and make yourself healthy for the next? Like that's my challenge, is like, okay, I've been divorced twice, like maybe I'm just not good at this. And you kind of start replaying this thing in your mind of like, maybe relationships are not for me. I'm just going to focus on work. And so how do you then get through and start changing the mindset there? Because 2 divorces is traumatic. It really is.
Yeah. And divorce rate goes up with every divorce. Twice, I think it's like 60%. 3 times, it's like 80% chance of getting divorced again.
Wow. Yeah.
You're right. It is a mindset. And saying things like, I'm just not good at relationships. Listen, I've said those things too.
Yeah.
And we just feel like I'm throwing up my hands. This is something I can't do.
Right.
But working with skilled practitioners who know how to ask the right questions and assign the right journal prompts, or just thinking questions that allow us to dig into our childhood. For ages 0 to 7 and 7 to 14, but especially ages 0 to 7, we are in a meditative state. There are 5 brainwave states. We have delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. And normally we operate in beta. Delta's deep sleep. And somewhere in between there is sleep and meditation. And we're very impressionable here, as you know.
Yeah.
Well, when we're ages 0 to 7, 0 to 2, we're in delta. And that's why they sleep so much. And then 2 to 7, we're in theta. And we're just taking in everything as fact. We are emotional beings. We don't have the vocabulary. We don't have the rationale. Our prefrontal cortex doesn't start forming until we're 10 and doesn't finish until we're in our 20s. And so we're taking in everything as fact. So for example, in my daughter's case, having a trauma like her parents getting divorced at the age of 2 is something that I know she's going to have to deal with, and that I want to help her with as much as possible. But I had to take care of mama. It's that idea of putting on your own oxygen mask first before assisting others. I had to show her what a strong, independent woman would do, and how to step into my authenticity. And so in answer to your question, how do we get back? It's an iterative, intentional process. That old adage that time heals all wounds is a myth. It does not. We have to do it intentionally. And so personally, I have worked with coaches. I have had therapists, and I think therapy really has its place, but I really like coaching, because that is more of a partnership where they're leading you and they're showing you where to point, instead of being this pedestal type thing where you're just talking yourself in circles.
Right.
We use hypnotherapy liberally, which is meditation, with guiding you in order to dig out some of these deep traumas of these things that I was repeating. I actually processed a lot of it during my last marriage, because I was having a lot of issues in the relationship. We were arguing. And so I sought out a certified hypnotherapist, interpersonal hypnotherapist, and found some things that I was not looking for.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so once you look at it, it doesn't make it so serious. It feels so big when we're 5 or 7. But once you're able to see it as an adult, you're like, oh, that's why I'm doing that. And now I don't have to do that anymore. And I mean, it's just an awareness. It's just looking at it and knowing, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is how I'm going to proceed intentionally, consciously. Because remember, most of our lives we're in our subconscious.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my advice: is find somebody that you want to work with, that is a coach in some area that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like can lead you down this path of healing. It's really a journey toward yourself. And talking about authenticity and love of self, but that's That's it.
Yeah.
Stopping the people pleasing, really rooted in what do I need, upholding boundaries. You know, this is the secret sauce.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it seems really complicated, but it's really simple. It's just hard. Things
It
that are
is.
simple are hard. Meditation is simple, but it's not always easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
especially because, you're starting to discover things about yourself that you may not want to address, right? And so you're like, maybe I can just shut this down and I won't meditate tomorrow because, too many things are coming up and too many things in my subconscious. But it's a very powerful tool. And I think that, for healing and for introspection, it's just so important to really understand you and, what it is that you need and your truth. We all have our own personal truth. And I think one of the things that has kept me single for the past several years and not jumping into another relationship is because I started to realize some truths about myself that make me very aware of when people are coming into my life, how do they affect my energy? And if they don't affect my energy in a positive way, they're gone, and so it's like I'm very protective of my energy now. I'm very honest with myself about what I need. I'm very honest about who I am and what I myself need and what I contribute. And so and anyone who's not fitting into that, it's just okay, then it's just okay. They're a great person for somebody else.
exactly. I did want to circle back quickly because when I first learned to meditate and when I was getting my first divorce, I used meditation to basically ask a question like, okay, I know this big trauma, this big T trauma that I've been denying for the past decade and a half. I know that it's a fact, and I'd really like to find a practitioner. I'm going to sit down with myself and just be quiet with that question kind of in the back of the head and say, who are the people that I've talked to in the past decade or so that might be able to point me to a practitioner that I can feel good referral? You can go within and say, who can help me with this problem? And this is getting a little where my science meets my spirituality, but I believe in quantum physics, which is the new science. And I believe that when we meditate, we access that quantum field of all possibility, where there's all answers, this state of pure consciousness. And so you can really use these meditative states to find answers. That's why they say there are answers in silence. Absolutely. And it's a fantastic tool for business. You can have a business meeting with yourself and with your mentors and just, I really want to call on that person that I used to work with and see if you can access some of that wisdom that does live inside of you in your subconscious. We've stored everything inside the brain and the body. And we're so distracted out here and connected to our eyes, we've got to shut that off so that we can go within and find those answers because they are there.
Oh, they are. They definitely are. I agree with you. So what led you down the path of wanting to your healing journey? Where did this all begin? I mean, how did you first start saying, this is what I want to dedicate my life to? Because it's a very unique and powerful career. So what led you down this path?
My own struggle. I mean, specifically, so I've been coaching meditation primarily, and I've been an inspirational speaker, but heartbreak is something that when I went through the second heartbreak, the first heartbreak, I broke up with him and came out of the closet and did all those things. But the second one, I was really, really devastated. And I was looking for a queer coach. I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
Plenty of heartbreak coaches, but they're all for heteronormative relationships. And queer hearts break harder. That's the name of my forthcoming book. We have different relationships, especially women, because of that whole U-Haul phenomenon that we talked about. We have these intertwined, beautiful relationships that when they fall apart, we really don't know where to turn. It's the same for heterosexual relationships, but with women, I think that we just take it so much harder, and sometimes we lose our best friend. I mean, I think that's true in a lot of relationships, but we have this really special way of getting to know one another. And so I became a coach because there was nobody doing it. And so I had to sign up with a couple of different straight coaches and use my therapist as well, and cobble together my own program, essentially, because I had done it other times. Sure. And so, you know what? I think I'm going to turn, because I was using meditation in a very targeted way. I'm like, I'm going to turn this into a business that helps other queer women like me, because there's nobody doing it out there, and it's so needed. I mean, we are a smaller part of the population, but we're an important part of the population. Absolutely. And so, yeah, that's, I just know that this is my dharma. This is where I'm supposed to serve. Yeah. In life is to teach 28 million people to meditate. And
I love that. I love that.
Starting small, one breath. Mm-hmm.
Good for you. So what obstacles have you had to overcome in terms of, like, you know, just starting and getting your practice built?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a big learning curve. I have had businesses of my own in the past, but well, they were nonprofits. And so very different structure, and so I had to hire a business coach in order to help me kind of reframe how this level of business works. Yeah. And I did work for a multinational company, you know, Fortune 50 company, and had my own business kind of under their umbrella as well. But it's very different from that. And especially a big challenge that I continue to have to overcome, as I've mentioned a couple of times, is just the fact that my parents are railing against me every single day, because not only am I out of the closet and gay, it's integral and it's all over the internet and social media, and they're embarrassed. And so when I first turned this corner and started focusing on my community, it was a real big struggle to overcome.
Wow.
My own, it's not imposter syndrome, but it's this people pleasing of being afraid to be myself.
Yeah.
Afraid to step into this place of authenticity where I know I can serve and where I feel most vibrant. I mean, I freaking love what I do. It is so delicious and it's so fulfilling. And I've had to work through those challenges in order to get to this place where I've got a full book of clients and almost no, you know, people text me and they're like, I can't find a space on your calendar in order to sign up to see if they can become a potential client. And so, I mean, the struggle is real, and it's through the struggle that we achieve that success. And it's through the sitting within that we're able to step into that productivity. It's that yin and yang. It's like everything in life is in cycles, day and night, our heartbeats, our lungs, the weather patterns, the tides. And it is learning that push-pull and making sure that when we're riding that wave, we realize that we are going to crash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that we're going to be able to get back up on the next wave.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, really impressed me about you is your ability to step into your power, because one of the things that I think as women we do is we give our power away all the time. So can you tell me about a time that you've given your power away, and then another time that you've stepped into your power? And I mean, I can already give you 100 examples of how you've stepped into your power, because you really are, you know, exponentially like one of those women who are clearly in your power right now. You're doing exactly what you want to be doing and what you're meant to be doing. So that to me is extremely powerful. So tell me about a time that you've given away your power.
That's a good question. I mean, the biggest one I'm thinking of course, is just staying in the closet. But let me think, because we've talked about that a little bit. I think just finding my voice. I have had practitioners over the years who have told me that, I've got this throat chakra thing that's been blocked. And I'm like, really? How's that possible? I'm really loud. And I don't know how I could possibly have my throat chakra blocked, but it was not standing up for what I know is right for me, for my family, trying to conform to what my ex-husband thought I should look like. I mean, I dyed my hair and did all kinds of things cosmetically to myself in order to try to be accepted by him, because I was afraid of being out of the closet and not having this, they call him the beard, having this safety net. And so, just finding my voice and being able to say, and really that is a constant unfolding. I recognized something in myself where I was doing that whole mental gymnastics of trying to guess what they thought that I should say or not say, or, it had to do with like the context of where a meeting should be held, and it should be held in private. And I'm like, why didn't I just ask?
Right.
Find our voice and just say, hey, I was thinking that maybe we should have this meeting at a coffee shop, but then I thought, maybe you don't want to discuss these things at a coffee shop. And so instead of asking that question, the mistake that I made yesterday, I made all kinds of assumptions, and I could have just found my voice and instead stepped into my own power of just asking instead of assuming.
Yeah. Well, and I think assuming gets us in all kinds of trouble, doesn't it?
Yes. And that's people pleasing. People pleasing is 100% assumption.
Yeah.
We don't know what they want, or maybe we do know what they want, but the real crux of it is, and maybe you've talked about this previously on your show, is that people pleasing is selfish.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't think about that. We are trying to be accepted or trying to not be rejected, and making guesses on what this person thinks about us and how they're going to perceive our actions. It's so much assumptions and so much self-preservation. We're trying to make sure that we are safe within this box that we're creating for ourselves. It isn't helpful.
Yeah, no, it isn't. And not showing up authentically is not fair to the other person, because then they don't know what to expect. So, all right. So what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Good one. Go to a different college.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have gone to a different college probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that had a big part in, I mean, it does affect kind of where you end up in life, and
really does. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. How about you?
I think I would tell my 18-year-old self to not be so hard on myself, because I was just one of those where it's like, if I wasn't a 10, I was a 1, right? And so it's like, if I wasn't here, I was nowhere. And so I've always been very hard on myself, and I think I would just say, ease up. It's not that serious.
It's not that serious. That's right.
Ease up. So one more question, and I really am so appreciative of all the great insight that you've given us today. But what do you wish more people knew?
That meditation is magic.
Yes, it is. It sure is. Yeah.
Magic. We cultivate personal magic slowly, day by day.
100%. Well, Sara, this has been such a pleasure. I've learned a ton, and I have really enjoyed talking to you.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure. So if you guys want to reach out and find Sara Webb, you'll find her on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. And then how else can they find you?
I'm everywhere at Sara Webb Says. That's SarawebBsays.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Sara. And I wish you all the best success in everything that you're doing. And I appreciate you so, so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time. And until then, step into your own power.